was, since the beginning, geometric, with straight lines, lots of icons, minimalist, but always modern. The focus was clarity, simplicity, and rigor. You still use the same concepts, simple design that both inform and engage. As you can see, this is examples, current examples, and we use the same straight lines, icons, and well, now you use colors. In 1919, the newspaper was black and white, and the way of thinking is the same, but the tools and the way of making isn't the same. When I start working in Públic's infographics teams, we didn't have the internet. It was before the internet's massification. And I don't know if you can imagine how could we did our job. I can't remember either. But something, the editors, journalists come to talk to us with a paper sheet, a photo, a fax, some notes with the data sketch. And if you want to make a map, for instance, we digitalize an enormous atlas page with the region we want and draw the map. Or we type the numbers one by one when we want to do a graphic. Can you imagine? But we just work with the small data sets. It's impossible work with the data sets like nowadays. Illustrator was the only tool we had at the time, but evolution of the work bring us other tools like MS Word, Excel, Photoshop, Acrobat, Flash, lately HTML and CSS, and now JavaScript for simple animations and interactions. So currently our attitude from the work is always learning. We must always be adaptive to the news tools, technologies, everything on the medium. We are 5, the current team, and we ages varying from 50 years old, me, till 19, Francisco, 3 women and 2 men. All of us has different backgrounds, but design is a common link. We have a strong team spirit, and all of us are enthusiasts about infographics. We work for 2 major strands in the newspaper. We do infographics pieces supporting the articles from a journalist to redactor, and we do autonomous infographics articles too, both for the platform statics and digital. Well, this is our work. This is what we do, visualizing information. And information is almost everything. Numbers are data, text is data, everything could be data, not only numbers. Our job is visualizing it and explaining it. The data or the information, the facts, the figures can arrive as in Excel, Word, maps, figures, well, lots of supports, lots of ways, and we must think about the data we have in a way that makes it easy to read by our audience, and in a way they can understand and get insights from it. This is an example. This is an infographics for print support for paper, and was made from text dates, because the electoral process in the USA is very different from Portugal, and we felt the need to explain how it works. This is another example. This is created from numbers, and this is about the cases of COVID-19 worldwide. And here we work with the data sets, with the numbers, and with the cases from countries, and the contributions for the total. The main steps to work was 6 before the development, the infographic itself. And this is the 4 steps. It's very important keep this in mind because helps our job. 1, we must first of all identify the type of data because they can be everything. We must decide our visual goals, and it depends on the subject and the type of data, of course, and almost other things not so important. We must break the data into its most basic parts, its raw essence, and in this we must think in terms of the 5 Ws plus H. The 5 questions, journalist questions: what, where, who, why, when, and how. This is traditional. We must understand at the same time, we must add in our minds how visual information is perceived, and this is important. Remember Gestalt principles like color, shape, size, proximity, similarity, closure, because when we go think in visualize the elements, we must think with these principles. Then we put the pieces together in a logical narrative or a story. I know it's not quite same thing, but with elements, visual elements, sometimes very different per se. We logical narrative, it's more important, and they create a story. Sometimes we must know a little bit about subjects to create this logical narrative, or must learn about it. Then decide or choose the type of infographics, if we're gonna do something explanatory or exploratory, or mixed. Then the development itself, it's another work, another phase of work. Storytelling is our basic technique, is the best way, and that's what we use, and that's why I'm talking about storytelling, because the digital platform, it's almost everything in storytelling. That's why, because it's a design concept, very easy to use. This does not require much effort from the user, and give the user a sense of control, some kind of exploration and discoverability. Sorry about my English. In the mobile, we have the swipe mode. It's the equivalent because it's natural. It's a natural gesture. It becomes with smartphones and the mouse with a scroll. It becomes natural for all of us. So storytelling is our natural support. This is how the work process should go. The 6 steps and after the development of final infographics, but this is how it happens most of the time, and it's the natural process. I want to show you some stuff we do, different examples. Maybe it could be a way of showing the different kinds of work we do, the different ways of visualizing the information. This is a small animation. Cod is widely consumed in our country, and this animation made a few years ago continues to be an excellent example of how information can also be fun, and this is information too. Another example from illustrated infographic or infographic illustrated. I don't know the order of the words. I think it's illustrated infographic. This is about the new school year, and in a year of pandemic. And here we use the storytelling and the illustration. Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Another example, this in this case, I think this is a good example because we work here with images, photographs, and dates, and some text about biographic text about the pieces of art and about the painter, and it's a very good example as we made a timeline. How our material, our data can be everything. We do data visualization too, more recently, when we use only numbers, data sets. This is about the this is an infographic data visualization made by the numbers of abstentions during the legislative elections in Portugal, because this made us think about the scale of this problem, and we did this. It's data visualization, but with infographic thinking, because it's clean. It's not exploratory. It's more explanatory. So the reader can see the line and can see the sequences of the subjects, not see everything he wants. It's a choice, because here we choose the data we want to say, we want to show. Sometimes we do things different. Here, that's an infographics multimedia. Use very elements, different visual elements, video, text. It's all present. Small animations and infographics, iconography, photos, again video. And a small data set. When we can see the endangered of the species in Europe. the red squares show us a species extinct. More recently, we did just for the digital support to infographic species only for support. This is an example of a explanatory infographic about the masks and why they are useful. We did this before the mandatory use of the masks. And in this infographic piece, we teach how our readers can make a mask, a domestic mask, mask in at home. Presently isn't not advised, and we use illustration and the small animations too, and schemes and graphics and all the visual elements we could. We can for this. And finally, but not final, we did this last year, very good infographics, storytelling. All these are storytelling technique, but this was one of the most, one of the best works, projects we did.
Hi everyone, my name is Francisco, and I will talk about a little bit of this job. This job is about the fires that occurred in Australia in 2019, and start with a storytelling that show Australia geography, its major towns. So we can give the reader a little bit of knowledge of Australia geography and how it looks. After that, we show the forest area, and we use the area that scroll above the background to complement the information we see in background. So we are seeing in this case the forest area in Australia. So we use the text that passed above to compare this area with other countries and Portugal, to give our readers familiarity with our numbers, so we can compare the huge numbers we are talking about. So this first part, we choose to make a storytelling because allow us to add multiple layers to the infographic, so we can compare the forest area, and after that we show the burned area in 2019, so you can see how big was the fires and how affected the forest area in Australia, and so on. We keep comparing with our numbers in Portugal, that areas that burn in Portugal and other countries, to show how big these numbers are. Keep scrolling. We keep adding information. We show in this case we show the fires that occurred, and we use that visualization to keep a closer look about New South Wales. That was the most affected state in Australia, and we use the potential of this visualization to close in and see with more detail what happened there. We compare the fires that occurred in this state with all Australian. This graphic you see best in the right side, and we show you showed the natural parks to see that the area that burn in black is the same with green parks. So all of the areas that burn are natural parks. After that, we stop the storytelling and talk about what has been lost so far. We show in simple graphs the human losses and the animals that are affected by the fires. Use here illustration to unify the style, so you can more easily manipulate the graphic style to unify with all the work. And so on. We have a little graphics to show where the species are in percentage affected by the fire, which one is most affected. To complement this part, we use a little GIF to show how big the fire was, and this GIF show us the smoke that are liberated by the fires in 2009. We show that cross all over the Pacific Ocean through South America and so on. So to give more backgrounds to the reader, we decided to add some causes that probably, and we think that was the perfect cocktail to what happened. So we use iconography to show simple facts, simple things. We cross it with a scatter plot that shows the driest years. We see that the last 10 years are the driest and hottest years. So on. To give more information to the reader that about what happened, and give the reader the opportunity to understand why this happened and why the fires are so big. We put some, I think is 100 maps that show us these ones show us the annual temperature since
1910.
Yes, and 10 and until the 2019. We see the last 20 years are more yellow, so have more average annual temperature higher than both the other ones. And then we have the annual precipitation. You can see the last 3 years are especially dry in the South Wales state. I think that's why this state was so affected, because the dry state has been passed by, and that in the final we choose to show a little island called Kangaroo Island, and use it to compare our burned area in this island to the district of Lisbon, to see how big was the burned area in that little island, and that we are transpose, I think, to show before and after, and that's all.
So is it on? Okay.
Yes.
Hello everyone, my name is José Alves from Público newspaper, Portugal. And first of all, I would want to thank Ricardo and Alipio for the invitation to be here. And let me start by saying that, as you may know, we are information designers by design. So our story with code starts in 2007 with Flash, Adobe Flash, and we kept growing till today. The project I'm going to show you a little bit is this one with this area of code. This is HTML, the basic HTML file, and in 2007 we began with only two lines of code, and we've started to work with it. It kept itself simple, and in 2015 we had to evolve a little bit. So we started to work on CSS HTML. The standard basic file structure is basically this, and the goal here is to keep it simple, the most simple that we can. So if I looking back, this is the graphic I see with the last 5 years, taking a jump with the amount of code. Okay, now we are going to take our quick tour of all over Apollo 11 project, starting with the end. This is the print version. This was executed after we had all the material, all the data, all the photos, everything was available. So it is easier to think on paper after we have this all gathered. So it all began with the NASA infographic. This was the inspiration we needed. A poster, a big poster in a wall with all the key moments of the voyage. The organization was fantastic. So, and off we go. Looking up into the sky, the objects, the clothes, the haircuts were made in this illustration to get the reader that place in time. So let me share the web page. Just a second. Are you still seeing the window?
We are.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So here we are. Before we start our journey, some context is needed. So we have our scrolling area, and the context begins with some information. Notice that along with the story that scrolls, we have the main animation on the left side of screen and the zoom and the timer on the right. The idea is to allow the reader to know exactly how, when, and where the step of the story is. Okay. This is the module of scale of the Apollo 11 module inside the Saturn V. Here we had the concern to not leaving the page, the animation that was occurring before. Okay. Okay. So here the clock starts at the right. The illusion of movement is created by the background movement. And here the animation takes the stage on the left. Sorry, on the left side. So the scroll keeps its focus on explaining what is happening in the main animation. And as it goes smaller and smaller, the animation starts to divide its attention with the right side. Here we have just added a small looped animation with the scrolling in the scrolling area. Okay, this gives us the opportunity to show in detail all the moves that Columbia made to assemble Apollo 11 at the time. And after 60 hours after, we are going to jump. It's a big step in time and space. Okay. Now, this locator is, as you noticed, to help us to locate us into space, not on Earth, but in space, in a part of the universe. So at this point, at the same time, the Apollo 11 turns. We have the turning around the path goes around the moon. A little bit more at this point. The photography becomes essential at this point. It's going to allow the reader to connect these small graphics, small elements that we want to show the connection to reality, as do video records ahead. Okay.
Down 2.5. Forward. Forward. Yes. 40 feet down 2.5.
So these are simple graphics that help us and help the reader follow up, and the videos help to acknowledge the moment that it happens to. So here, the first step is, as you can see, fully documented with photos and videos, and a small GIF animation along with it. The next step, the eagle is going to divide itself, and to do so, every element must be drawn separately. If you go a step back, this is an element drawn separately with this. And one more time, remembering the scale of it, just to the reader, so the reader can acknowledge how small the space was inside the capsules. So 7 hours later, I don't know if you noticed, but the path between Earth and Moon faded away, and we began a new path the other way around. So here entangles again 7 hours of orbiting the Moon, entangles again the path. And the jet starts. So the illusion is once more given by the background, moving backwards this time. And we have here, as you can see, all the schemes introduced in the scrolled area. This is important to explain it. Didn't make sense anywhere else, since we have these areas dedicated. The heating process of the capsule. Okay, and we watered and we landed at the sea. The use of this area proved to be very useful to explain the right and left side, to complement the explanatory needing. So in the last part of the work, we give our readers enough material to explore and understand with the graphics used and made to the first part, when some of them were not used, and we gave them away in this part of the job. Some schemes, some of the suit, of the ship, how they slept. Everything was composed to understand and to try to understand what they lived on this voyage. The part and the step of the mooning, and again some videos that were made to explain this moment.
The Apollo 11 lunar module Eagle, flown by Neil Armstrong.
So that's it. The geography of the moon is the last of it, with the suits and how they worked and how they turned this everything possible.
Thank you. Thank you, José. Thank you, Célia, and also Francisco. What a journey, I will say, from the beginning of the first years to the current realm. And you do such an amazing job. It's incredible what you guys do. And I should say, for those who don't know, that this is done with a very short team of 4 to 5 elements. José, Alves and Celia, they are not only infographics, but they are also journalists. We are a little bit ahead of schedule. Sorry, Pablo, who is going to be our next speaker, but we still have some time for 2 or 3 questions. I also have one question here, but the first one, to raise hand features, thanks Alipio directly from the University of Porto. Alipio is going to give to pose the question, and I will just would like to inform participants that if they want to participate in this discussion or doing some questions, please raise a hand feature, okay? Alipio.
Hi. So I was checking if anyone else would like to go first, but apparently there's no raised hand from another participant. So first of all, thank you to the Público team for the great presentations. It's a great work. Congratulations on your award and on your results. I'm a Público reader, and I enjoy particularly your work. So not only your presentations, but your work frequently. Actually, I'm a Público subscriber, so it's more than a reader. I have 2 questions. I'm curious. I'm always curious when I see your work. As a computer scientist and someone working with artificial intelligence and automation, and so how much of your work is automated? What is your construction process? Do you do everything by hand? You choose every single icon, you choose every single position and piece of text. So you mentioned coding, but how is the process done? So that's one my first question. And the second question, which is not from my area, but I'm also interested in automating that kind of thing, is how do you make the graphical image of these icons homogeneous? So do you have any kind of program that does that? So you input a photograph and it appears, like you were showing the examples of the animals in Australia with the koalas and the kangaroos. Do you have a library of icons with the same graphical library image, or do you have some kind of adapter that makes everything with similar graphical style?
I don't know if Celia, you want to answer that?
I don't know if the question is for me or for Zé, because the part of illustration is for Zé. But about the automation, I can say it's everything human. nothing is automatic. It's everything human. It's everything from the human minds. We think all the process we choose and draw the icons, the illustrations, the steps. We read the data, all human. Nothing is automatic. Yes.
I should say too that in the codes we have to keep it simple. We have to think ahead, so we can do that part where in 2015-18 we did the standard file that was on purpose, so we could all use the same file to grow. It's the starting point of every work. So yeah, that's a little bit like that. We try to do a little bit more tomorrow than we did yesterday, so it grows and almost grows itself. The illustrations are made all with the style, specific style, you can say. This one of the moon has one style. There are others that are more alike. We draw like we feel, and just how we feel. And sometimes we draw simplest drawings, so we can produce more in less time. Okay, just a little bit like that.
Thank you.
Célia, you mentioned one very important aspect of type of data that we also work with, that slide that breaks data into pieces.
Yeah.
We also work with the 5 W's, the what, the where,
Okay.
who, the why,
Yeah.
and when. But it is curiously because we do it on the automatic perspective. We try to understand more deeply the text through computational techniques. And one thing interesting here to discuss, but on the perspective of journalists, is if you would face this automated process as a risk or as a gift to help you in the task of interpreting data, because you guys showed so many interesting things. You also showed a timeline where the problem is not only to select the most important text, but also the most important dates, or even these last infographics explored by José about related with Apollo. So I'm not properly thinking on doing this infographic process automatically, but on the previous steps, which will help you as a journalist to have a pre-selection of the most important text, of the most important dates. But some journalists that we talk to, some of them, they react saying that they are still not comfortable with that. So my question here is that as a journalist, you face it as a risk or as a gift to your work. This question is for Célia and for José and Francisco, and also Sonia. If you want to join us, you can also join us. I'm looking here.
I think Célia
got frozen. Yeah.
But in my perspective, if I can join the question, this is a moment that moment we feel that this kind of work you do with intelligence, artificial intelligence, is essential to so we can be more with other ways or other thinkings and other stuff to do, so we can always adapt and adjust to everything new you can do in this area.
And you are open to this kind of collaborations that came from the academia.
For sure.
Yes. Great. Adam, before I'll pass you the opportunity to do one question, I would like also to invite Sergio Nunes, who also raised his hand. So Sergio also works with us, and he was also part on the first edition of the organization of the first edition of the workshop. Sergio, are you there?
Yes. And then, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, thank you, Ricardo, and congratulations to the speakers. Very interesting work. My question is on another interest of mine is the digital preservation of things, of digital things, and contrary to printed infographics that once printed they stay forever there. Digital infographics need to be maintained. My question is how much of your daily work is on maintaining those past infographics, keeping them alive, or you don't do that? How is that process and Público's process regarding the preservation of those digital artifacts, like that Apollo that we saw? Thank you.
Are you asking for me or Zé or Francisco? Okay.
The three of you.
The three of us. Okay. Well, sometimes we used archived works because that's work, and we used them. But another times we make it all from the beginning, another new ones. In this case, was totally new, the Space 1969. I don't know if I answered your question.
Not quite. My question was about, for instance, the fact that infographics, digital infographics, degrade themselves in the sense that browsers are updated, technologies change, and things stop working. How can we preserve?
Stop working, like Flash. For instance,
like Flash, yes. that ended last year. So
yes.
how can we keep things working? What is Público doing for that kind of digital preservation?
The IT, not us. The IT sometimes build. I think they can answer better this, but I think the IT builds interface some kind of way for utilize or. The old infographics digital, like Flash and others, but every time we change the site, we lose something. Every time. But Zé, can you say better than this?
That's just it. I'm glad Sonia is with us, but because I have some complaints to do. No, it's really that simple. The site evolves, and there are new scripts, new classes, new IDs, new everything. So you can realize how deeply sorry we are after all this work we do be somehow lost in translation.
Complete a little bit. Digital is always changing, so we are always looking for oldest works to see if they are affected by them. By these changes. So times to times we need to
go back
some things, but in most works we use scripts or other code locally. So if change, also it's maintained the same. So no, don't change with the host. I think it's mostly that.
That's an interesting question from Sergio. It will probably benefit if we added previously to the discussion Daniel Gomes from the arquivo.pt, because he struggles with that to preserve the information that gets outdated as time goes by. talking about time, we are 20 minutes ahead of schedule. Our break will then be short in a couple of minutes, if we have a break, because probably we cannot. I will just give the opportunity for Adam to make his question. Please, Adam.
Yes, thank you for presentation. I just wanted to ask if you get any feedback from users, and how do you get a feedback? Because you stay in your team and you may think something is understandable by readers, but something may not. So is there any interaction with readers, and how you do that?
Célia.
Lots of interactions. We have our names in the infographics, and the readers can send us an email automatically, just clicking. And we received lots of notes and critiques and corrections and applauses, either too, from our readers. Yes, it's a very pleasant. Even if they critique, it's good for us.
So if I may ask, what is the most problematic issue? What people complain about usually?
It's about statistics way of seeing the sometimes when we adapt the visual elements to a broader public, readers, all kind of readers, and some readers more specific, more exigent from statistics or scientific subjects, critique us about the scales, or if we aren't using the scales, but we didn't cut the scales, we just hide them sometimes, and other things like that. And we must explain our choice to that readers, because it depends, and our readers are vast. We must adapt our content to all of the people who read us, and not just for the scientists or for the academics, for all of us.
You know that with the COVID-19 stuff, we are all statistical doctors nowadays, so we all can criticize, and we all see at the time different things, and they share that with us, fortunately.
Yeah, the way you use these infographics, it's also a new matter of discussion that you didn't have the opportunity to tackle, which is you use these to engage new kinds of our audience, and new appealing forums to get new users. We also know from the news that you have been very successful during the last year by doubling the figures, by doubling the numbers of subscribers into your journal. Should also now welcome for 30 seconds the other organizer, Sumit Bhatia, who has also changed his background to an Apollo image. And
okay.
also Sonia's, sorry that we won't have sorry that we won't have time for extending this discussion. Again, it was our pleasure. We feel very honored to have you here on board, and to have the opportunity to discuss this important thematic with you guys. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.